In Ecuador, Citizens Revolution candidate Luisa Gonzalez does not recognize the results of the 2025 presidential runoff amid voting irregularities. In South Korea, the criminal trial for insurrection of former President Yoon began on Monday with the leader denying all charges. And Israeli forces shelled dozens of tents in Khan Yunis following a warning to evacuate the area, leaving 150 displaced families without shelter. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Ecuador, the candidate for the Citizens Revolution, Luisa Gonzalez, did not recognize the results of the 2025 presidential runoff that gave the victory to current President Daniel Noboa. This way, Gonzalez emphasized that her party, Citizens Revolution, has always recognized the electoral results, except Sundays. Gonzalez denounced that previous opinion polls and surveys, including those of the national government, did not present a difference as alarming as the one of the votes seemingly counted. With many irregularities being denounced by voters and organizations, Gonzalez demanded that the votes be recounted with the due transparency.
I want to be very clear and categorical. The Citizens' Revolution has always recognized a defeat in the last elections when the polls and statistics have shown it. Today we do not recognize the results. I am going to be very clear, in the name of the men, women, children, young people, whom I represent, whom all of us who are here represent, in the name of the people we represent. We do not recognize the results presented by the National Electoral Council.
And after the denunciation of electoral fraud by the Citizens Revolution candidate Luisa Gonzalez, the National Electoral Council of Ecuador proclaimed Daniel Noboa as the re-elected president of the country. After a process marked by irregularities with the government of Daniel Noboa and the Electoral Council interfering in the electoral exercise. In addition, members of the Citizens Revolution denounced that the electoral body was uploading the minutes without signing them, which is a violation of the electoral laws of the country. In Ecuador, Vice Presidential candidate Diego Borja denounced irregularities in the electoral process, pointing out that exit polls only showed a 12 percentage point difference between the two candidates.
This is an extremely rare result, extremely rare, which gives us elements to say that it is absolutely desired. Look, some facts. There are 11 surveys that gave us the triumph of the binomial of the Citizens' Revolution. There are 2 exit polls, which are the measurements at the polling stations. One gave candidate Noboa the triumph, and the other gave us the triumph. In both cases, with a difference of around 2 percentage points. Neither his nor ours showed major differences. And now that the official results are given, we are with a difference of 12 percentage points in favor of Noboa, when neither the surveys nor their exit polls showed that.
Precisely in this regard, the General Secretary of the Citizens Revolution Party of Ecuador, Andrés Arauz, denounced through social media some of the irregularities detected during the electoral process. Arauz presented evidence of alleged violations to the electoral law and showed minutes without the proper signatures. He warned, according to Article 127 of the Code of Democracy, a tally sheet that does not have the joint signatures of the President and Secretary of the Board is not valid. However, he continued, the National Electoral Council is uploading minutes without signatures to support the results. In all cases, they are in favor of Noboa. And in Peru, the Boluarte administration threatened non-governmental organizations as they have been denouncing human rights violations and domestic corruption. The Peruvian government enacted a legislation lately that sanctions organizations which receive funds from overseas corporations and act against the state in national and international entities. The law is part of the governmental strategy to silence allegations of non-governmental organizations about human rights crimes, environmental counter-reforms, and corruption promoted by high senior officials, including the President Boluarte. NGOs and a small sector of the Peruvian press have denounced abuses of power by authorities who coerce the operation of these movements and of the media, which condemn irregularities. We now have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back with more. Welcome back. On Sunday, the Holy Week that is commemorated by millions of Catholics around the world began in several countries. In El Salvador, a town of indigenous origin, also begins the Holy Week with a procession full of color, fervor, and tradition. Our correspondent in El Salvador, Roberto Opresas, with the story.
Panchimalco, ubicado en el sur de San Salvador.
Panchimalco, located in the south of San Salvador, is one of the few towns where the Nahuatl culture is still alive. This Sunday, the streets were dressed in colors, and its inhabitants in faith and devotion in this religious pilgrimage that gives green light to the activities of the Holy Week.
Vengo de San Salvador y me gustan las tradiciones.
I come from San Salvador, and I like the traditions of this place, which is a historical place with a lot of tradition, very old.
De mucha tradición, muy antiguo y vale la pena.
It is worth sharing all the religious ceremonies, which are very colorful and very traditional.
Que son muy coloridas y de mucha tradición.
Coreando alabanzas, miles de pobladores salen a las
Chanting
calles.
praises, thousands of villagers take to the streets, carrying in their hands bunches of palm leaves, which are blessed by the priest. These branches are placed in the houses as a symbol of faith, humility, and protection to the families.
And for us, this is a reminder that we have to do it more often based on our belief. God is always present with us. And now, that fervor is reborn day after day.
These musicians have kept alive for almost a century the rhythm of the native people that now mixes with the faith of the Catholic people. They go through the streets with the whistle and the drum.
We have been working since 1954. Until today, we have been accompanying the Passion of Christ, Jesus. We do it every year. In Holy Week, processions, celebrations of the Virgin and all the saints.
Una de las estampas más atractivas y significativas.
One of the most attractive and significant images of this procession is this image that represents the triumphal entry of Jesus to Jerusalem, which according to the scriptures he did on a donkey.
It is something invaluable because at that time the donkey was one of those animals that obeyed, that were not very rebellious. God chose this animal that by nature is passive.
This is a very important event in the Catholic religion. This is the beginning of Holy Week, and this is when the Lord entered Jerusalem and we all applauded him, we shouted with cheers. On Friday and Holy Thursday we will also be shouting, "Crucify him, crucify him."
This pilgrimage involves from children to the elderly, who seek to keep alive this tradition that each year attracts thousands of local and foreign tourists.
El Salvador, como varios países de Centroamérica,
El Salvador, like several Central American countries, keeps alive traditions such as these, which is the beginning of the Holy Week, a week full of activities that brings together millions of people.
Roberto Hugo Presa, teleSUR, Panchimalco, El Salvador.
Meanwhile, in Haiti, clashes have intensified in recent days between armed criminal groups and government forces in the town of Kenskov. The attacks included brutal executions, the burning of houses, and the forced displacement of more than 3,000 people. Attackers, equipped with firearms, set fire to 3 official vehicles and stole tactical equipment, attacking 6 police officers who had been absent from their post. In this regard, the United Nations Integrated Office in Haiti reported that this year violence in Kenskov left 262 dead, 115 civilians and 147 criminal group members, in addition to 66 wounded in total. In this context, the community of Caribbean states expressed on Sunday its concern over the serious crisis in Haiti, so it made an urgent request to the United Nations. CARICOM Secretariat warned that the escalation of violence could lead to new waves of internally displaced people. In this regard, the International Organization for Migration briefed that over 1 million Haitians are currently living in extreme conditions. Therefore, CARICOM asked the UN and other international organizations to reinforce humanitarian assistance to defuse the crisis in that country. Likewise, the community ratifies that the unprecedented criminal violence is blocking all opportunities for relief and development. And in South Korea, the criminal trial for insurrection of President Yoon began on Monday, with the leader denying all charges. Precisely, the former president argued that his imposition of martial law in December last year did not amount to an insurrection, but was a lawful and symbolic act. Let's recall that Yoon was impeached by Parliament days after he briefly declared martial law on December 3, 2024, which lasted around 6 hours before being overturned by the National Assembly and sparked mass protests. The impeachment was unanimously upheld by the Constitutional Court. If charged with insurrection, Yoon could face life imprisonment or even the death penalty. In this context, the nation heads toward a snap presidential election on June 3rd. And during his state visit to Vietnam, Chinese President Xi Jinping invited the nation to work with China on security, infrastructure, and trade. During his speech, the Asian leader emphasized China's readiness to strengthen cooperation with Vietnam in various areas, including infrastructure projects such as the Three Standard Gauge railroads and the development of a smart port. In this regard, he stressed the importance of deepening mutual trust, generating tangible benefits for both peoples. Furthermore, he urged the promotion of cultural and people-to-people exchanges, as well as the defense of the multilateral trading system. We now have our second short break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final break, I'm going to be right back. Welcome back. Israeli forces shelled dozens of tents in Khan Yunis following a warning to evacuate the area, leaving 150 displaced families without shelter. The bombing did not kill or injure any displaced persons, but left dozens of displaced families homeless in the Gaza Strip. The shelling also hit the aid distribution center, which is affiliated with the relief agency for refugees, UNRWA. In this regard, the displaced persons claimed that the shelling also included humanitarian aid intended to be delivered to the refugee camp. It is important to note that in recent days, more than 150,000 Palestinians have been forcibly displaced from Rafah in southern Gaza, as Israel's ground and air operations in the area have intensified.
There were 150 tents here, 150 families in this area. There is nothing left. Our homes were destroyed. Our tents were destroyed. What will we do next? Where will we go? Israeli warplanes targeted the entire place. They bombed the aid distribution center, which is affiliated with the relief agency for refugees. Among this aid, which was supposed to be distributed at 8:30 in the morning to families here in the camp, were baby diapers and blankets as aid to them from the relief agency. Unfortunately, all of this aid was damaged due to the occupation missiles.
And amid recent conflicts between pressures and university rights, Harvard professors sued the Trump administration for threatening academic freedom of pro-Palestinian activism. The Harvard faculty chapter of the U.S. Association of University Professors and its national arm filed a lawsuit before Boston federal court, grounded in the government was attempting to unlawfully erode academic freedom and free speech on campus. The claims stem from the repressions of pro-Palestinian protests in Harvard. Therefore, plaintiffs contended that the White House had jeopardized the fundamental right of educators and students to engage in critical debate. Therefore, the lawsuit seeks not only to protect Harvard's autonomy, but also to challenge what they consider an improper use of federal power to silence dissenting voices in universities. And in Gabon, Brice Oligui Nguema, transitional president and leader of the country's military government, won a resounding victory in the presidential elections with 90.35% of the vote. Election day was marked by a 70% voter turnout, significantly higher than the 56% recorded in the 2023 elections. Nguema's victory gives him a 7-year term of office, renewable once under the new constitution approved last November. His main rival, former Prime Minister Alain Claude Biliebynze, lagged far behind with just 3%. Although Nguema's victory marks the beginning of a new political era, Gabon faces significant challenges such as economic inequality and the need for political stability. And in Turkey, the International Forum on Diplomacy in Antalya has concluded its third day of roundtable discussions. Upon participating in the forum, Venezuelan Foreign Minister Ivan Gil congratulated the Turkish government for hosting the event, while Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan stressed the importance of diplomacy in times of global fragmentation. Details with our correspondent, Yoon.
The
forum concluded after more than 50 panel discussions. The third and final day touched on issues such as empowering global youth in a digital world and the fight against racism in the 21st century.
There may be racism in the European Union against Muslims, against black people, against gypsies, also against anti-Asian sentiments, anti-Semitism, obviously, and other forms of it.
Why is it Christian Europe? It's also Jewish Europe, it's also Muslim Europe. Muslims and Jews and Christians have been inhabiting Europe for over 1,000 years.
Another panel was devoted to foresight as an instrument of diplomacy with alert positions.
By the President of the United States or the President of the Russian Federation or the President of China. Even if all three of them don't want a nuclear war, still a nuclear war is possible. And this is the strategic force that I'm sharing with you and the young people here in the next day.
The exponent called for the exclusion. Participated in the panel on critical raw materials in the era of competition.
We see that the Turkish government and his president, his foreign minister, have organized this fourth edition where there has been a fabulous participation. More than 100 countries have been here working together. We have seen, for example, a condemnation of the genocide against Palestine. We have also seen condemnation against unilateral coercive measures. We have seen how the role of multilateralism, the role of cooperation of the global South and East has been vindicated, and I think it is a very positive opportunity for our countries.
The
fourth edition of the forum, this year entitled Recovering Diplomacy in a Fragmented World, was closed by the Turkish Foreign Minister, Hakan Fidan.
The forum shed light on regional and global developments and proposed solutions to existing problems. At this year's meeting, we all expressed our hopes and concerns about the common future of humankind. We discussed the mechanisms of cooperation that will build this future together.
The Turkish foreign minister stressed that Turkey will continue to defend the values of multilateralism and humanity.
Yoon, teleSUR, Antalya, Turkey.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.